Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Red Shadow's Favorite Games. I am, of course, the Red Shadow, and I'm doing a little bit of a different camera angle for this here. Not a whole lot different. Instead of having it on my coffee table down here and it kind of looking up, it's a little bit more in profile. I don't know, we'll see how this looks. Do a couple videos this way. If I like it, I'll keep it. But anyway, it's been a little while since I've done one of these videos. I've vlogged a few times while I was on my vacation, but I had like no other motivation whatsoever to do anything in regards to my game series or anything else. Vacation's over now. I've been back to work a couple of days, although I'm off the next 2 days. I feel like I think I can get back in the groove here, especially because I really don't have that much further to go to be done with this series. And there's so many other things that I want to do moving forward. So, and anyway, let's just jump on in. This time around, we're talking about one of my favorite PS1 games. And, well, I'll talk a little bit more about how this ties into another series of games that I really love, but why I picked this one over that series. And anyway, without further ado, we're talking about Dino Crisis. The first game in particular, but well, the entire series, kind of, sort of. I've only played the second game, but this game here was really, really awesome for me. Back in the 90s, I had played this one, as it says down here, has a demo for Resident Evil 3. If you don't already know, Capcom, who made this game, also made the Resident Evil series. There had already been a couple of games from that out by the time this one released, and I had played those games. I was a big fan of Resident Evil. I think Resident Evil 2 is probably my favorite of the entire series, not just the first games. But I give the edge, in my opinion, to Dino Crisis in terms of how much I enjoy the series overall. Resident Evil's really close, but Dino Crisis just goes a little above it. And in particular, I love the first game here. This is for the PlayStation 1. This is my nice black label copy with the demo disc. You know, there's your regular disc, and then you got to pop this out. And I never did like this style of case. Well, it didn't really work, but there's the main disc, and then here's the Resident Evil 3 demo disc. I'll have to sort the case out later. But, like I said, really enjoyed the game. Love the dinosaur aspect of it. You have to understand that for me, zombies, as popular as they are still to this day, they've never been one of my favorite creatures or enemies or, you know, antagonists in a game. But dinosaurs had been a favorite of mine since I was a kid. And then, of course, in the 90s, we had Jurassic Park, which just blew my mind on so many levels. And so for Capcom to say, let's take the survival horror genre and let's put dinosaurs into the mix instead of zombies, I was so down for that. So I played the first Dino Crisis, loved it, despite the cheesy acting and one-liners and whatnot. It was a great game. I had a lot of fun with it. I'm hoping that maybe sometime soon I'll get to replay that game. And number 2, this is my copy of Dino Crisis 2. This is a good game. It was a good follow-up to the first game. There's the inside there with the disc. It was a good follow-up to it, but I think that they wanted to, for whatever reason, they wanted to differentiate it a little bit from the survival horror genre. So this one took on a little bit more of an action tinge, with literally combo points and stuff from, you know, your attacks on the dinosaurs. But it still played a lot the same. You still ran around and the dinosaurs would be there and you could run past them or you could shoot them. The story started to get a little unusual, even more so than the first one. But like I said, I still enjoyed it. I still thought it was a what's the word I'm trying to think of? Well, I can't think of the word right now. Competent. It was a competent sequel to the first game, even though, like I said, it got a little unusual. And then, of course, there was a PS2 game called Dino Stalker that was a light gun game that was based in the Dino Crisis universe. I've never played it. I don't own it. I'll probably buy it one of these days just to have it in my collection. I don't expect to ever buy a light gun so I can actually play it. I just would want it on the shelf. But I also more recently picked up this, which is Dino Crisis 3. It came out on the Xbox. I don't know anything about this game, as in I've never played it, but as you can tell from looking at this here, this all looks very futuristic. Looking at it now, since games like Mass Effect and stuff have came out, I would look at this and say, oh, it kind of looks like Mass Effect with dinosaurs. But it says, more than 500 years in the future on a spaceship named Ozymandias, you and your partners are on a search and rescue mission. Piece together the spacecraft's mysterious reappearance after a 300-year absence. Armed with hyperspeed booster units and an arsenal of futuristic weaponry, you'll confront ferocious space mutations and evolved forms of dinosaur creations in your quest to solve the mystery. It's out-of-the-world gameplay. I don't know. To me, that just sounds even cheesier than anything in the original games. So we'll see if I ever get around to jumping into that. It just sounds like it's going to be so far away from, what was going on in the first two games. You get to play as the same lead character in both the first and second Dino Crisis game, Regina, and this other game doesn't look like it's going to have her involved in any way, shape, or form. Real quick, I'm going to show off my strategy guides for these because I've got some pretty cool ones here as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, here's my Prima strategy guide for Dino Crisis. Very nice condition strategy guide. And then here is a Brady Games Dino Crisis. This one, I bought it on eBay and the seller had it packed in one of these nice little plastic cellophane wrappers, I guess. So I haven't even taken it out. And I actually have a third Dino Crisis strategy guide, and this is from the much beloved Versus Books series of strategy guides. And when I get around to doing a video or a series of videos about my strategy guide collection, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I'm a big-time collector of the Versus Books strategy guides. There weren't maybe no more than 45 or 50 altogether. So it could be a collection that I try to finish out. But this is one of the handful of games that I have a Versus Book strategy guide for. And then I have a Prima strategy guide for Dino Crisis 2. I don't know if there's Brady Games and Versus Books versions of this one, but at least I have one of them. So that really about wraps it up for Dino Crisis. I know it's not a whole lot to say. I showed off more stuff than really talked about it, but most people probably know the Resident Evil games. Although, if you're younger, you probably are more familiar with Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6. But to me, the best Resident Evil games were the early ones on the PS1, and Dino Crisis was just another version of the Resident Evil games, like I said before, just with dinosaurs instead of zombies. You really have to play the game to kind of understand why it's so much fun. They are hard to control after having played games from the modern era, but they're really, really worth it. You just kind of have to take the cheesy dialogue and stilted voice acting with a grain of salt and just immerse yourself in a really fun game that thrusts you into the middle of a dinosaur resurgence. It's not like Jurassic Park, though. I will mention that. Just because it was probably inspired by Jurassic Park doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you're like a scientist and some kids roaming through a park. You are like soldier types going through a scientific research facility where they did something that enabled dinosaurs to come from the past into the present. But it can be kind of creepy, it can be kind of atmospheric at times. It's just one of my favorite games, and sometimes when I do these videos I realize I don't really know what to say. All I can really say is, I like this game, here's a little bit about it, go try it for yourself if it sounds appealing. This is going to have to be one of those. So, Dino Crisis, and the second game for sure. The rest of the series, if you're a collector, get them all. But check out the first 2 Dino Crisis games if you are familiar with Resident Evil but you never really heard of this series or you never gave it a chance. Give it a chance. It's pretty fun. So that wraps up this video. Hopefully I'll be sitting down here in just a moment to do another one and try to get back on track. Thanks a lot for watching and sticking with me on this series, and I'll see you in the next video.